Welcome to the Be That Healing Girl podcast. And today on this episode, we're going to talk about staying connected during distant moments. And if you are like me and if you're on this podcast, you know that distance is like awooga, red alert, right? And that can be, oh wow, he tied his shoes really angrily. Is he mad? Or maybe it's something like they haven't texted in a while or today or something like that. Or maybe it's actual physical distance. I mean, my husband and I lived long distance ish. So even the physical distance can be a thing. And this episode is dropping right around the holidays. So I just know that this might be something on the table for you. And I want to kind of get started talking on this topic. And let's just dive in, shall we? And if you're new here, my name is Claire. I'm a relationship coach. I love helping super successful, whether that's with your career, entrepreneurship, as a mom, successful women who are slaying in their careers, in their academia, in their entrepreneurship, but you're sucking at staying calm, cool, connected, and collected in your relationship, where you are spiraling with overthinking, you are overanalyzing every text interaction, you are freaking out when there's distance, and if that is you, then you're in the right channel, honey. So excited to have you here. And if you are enjoying this episode or any of the other episodes, hitting the 5-star review is such a high five. Literally love it. Also, P.S. Apple, y'all were really kind of not with it. So just saying, if you listen on Apple, thank you so much for hitting that 5-star. I'm just speaking to me in my camera in like literally my little bedroom studio. So when I see those 5 stars, it really means a lot. So thanks for doing that. Okay, let's talk about it because I just know this is a really tender topic, especially around the holidays. And P.S. I have a masterclass coming up in December. So we're going to talk even more in depth about the deeper understanding about how can you stay connected, how can you keep that connection going, how can you feel more intimate even though there's distance. So make sure to check out that masterclass training coming up. So I think the best way that what really helped me in creating those connections was what I call bringing forward the unknown. And this is something that I do specifically in the Confidence Code, which is my signature program. I'll put the link for that below. But really, that whole way that I teach in the Confidence Code is dedicated to bringing what you don't understand, what is unconscious, what is unknown, forward. Okay? Because and I also want to back up too and just say, in order to stay connected, one of the things that you have to understand is, how do we disconnect? How do we disconnect? How do we separate? We separate from ourselves. We separate from the relationship. And disconnection is the way that we do that. And the way that our subconscious works is it really created strategies. It created ways that were methodical, even methodical strategies, methods, ways of being that in the past have created connection. It was the subconscious habits, behaviors, and patterns that you have all served you at one point, straight up. The reason why you do them is because it created connection. So here's a great example of what I mean around the conscious versus subconscious. Haven't you been in a position where you have a 13 or 3-page text? Like, I don't know. I've definitely sent maybe a 13-page text, but it's like a 3-page text. And everything in your logical brain says, don't send that. That's not a good idea. Don't send that. But you cannot help it. Like, you internally She-Hulk and you just gotta send it. Or it can even look like in a conversation where you are just going the extra mile and you are She-Hulking it out on explaining to the nth degree, beating the dead horse around, okay, and they're like, I get it, and you just can't help but keep going. All of that. And those are just like some examples of subconscious behavior that somehow got you safe. For me personally, I'll just give you 2 examples. So there would be, God, so many times, I'm just trying to think of one specific time. yeah, I'll feel the need to over explain something really simple to my husband. One of those being our ballots recently. So we had some issues getting our ballots for the upcoming presidential election. We travel full time. That's another story. But I really was in a moment of trigger. I was scared. Okay, so big feelings, a trigger of fear made me like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen? And we need our ballots, and how are we going to do it? And so I found myself just deluging Craig with like word vomiting out all these things that need to happen. And he, thank goodness, has done his own work, but it was like, it's going to be okay. Like, we're going to figure it out. And in that moment, I caught myself like, oh, there I am in this subconscious behavior, this strategy that at one point got me safe. And this just was my experience. And I want you to see if this relates to you. Did you ever have to have a really good reason to say that why you were late for curfew? Or maybe that was never even happened because you were so scared of that happening. That was, in fact, me. Um, but maybe you didn't get the A plus plus. Maybe you got the A minus, and you had to really come up with all the reasons, build a good case why that happened. Does that sound familiar? Right? So these are deep subconscious patterns and strategies that got you safety, right? They created safety for you. And when we are in that pattern, we create disconnection, we create separation. And so when I say disconnection, there's a couple of things that I feel happen. We automatically can go into blame. When I see women that are earlier, way early in their healing journey, there's a lot of blame. If you don't believe me, go on some of my bigger TikToks and just see, like, they would love to blame the avoidant. And I get it. It's really convenient. It's really easy. It's really satisfying to just blame somebody else, okay? But I say this, and if you were on that cusp and maybe you blamed somebody the other day, blame is a great way to disconnect. And it is not part of a healthy way of healing, okay? We're not really going to solve any problems. We're not going to feel any better by playing the blame game. So when we are in that attempt of staying connected, so for example, you want to stay connected, they're being a little distant. If you want to blame their work, right? Well, you're just so dedicated to your work. Do you think, or so obsessed with your work, you're just the project is too big and da da da. Do you think that your partner is going to be really excited to share work stuff with you, and if they don't feel safe to share it because you're blaming their work? Just saying. Just saying, they're probably not going to. I'm thinking about another client too, where her partner was experiencing like a couple of, maybe not immediate family, but her partner was experiencing like family illness, and it wasn't like an immediate family member, but that does, if you're like me, I grew up in an Asian household, very close to my aunts and uncles, that would have a major effect on me. And so one of the things that kind of kept coming up for her was that, well, this person was sick, and like, and he's saying he's not affected by it, but in that inability to hold herself and to really sit with and to stay connected to his reality and what he was experiencing, and kind of feeling a little butthurt around it, that inherently creates disconnection too. Because if they don't feel safe or seen or accepted, that you have graciousness with their family going through something, even if it's not an immediate family member, that's going to create disconnection, because they want that, right? So when we are disconnected from somebody else's experience, and I'll just say that, when we are disconnected from maybe what they're carrying, and we don't always know what somebody's carrying, right? We don't know the internal stress that they're experiencing, whether it's from their job, whether it's from their family got sick, whether it's from an upcoming big move, whether it's whatever, So we actually don't know that. But when we are so absorbed into our own experience, and we're only thinking about ourselves, and we're only thinking about how we feel, that is going to create disconnection in the relationship. Now, I'm not saying that there couldn't be better communication. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that anything like that, but I'm just speaking from the thing that you're in charge of, because we can't control anybody else, but you are in charge of your own management and how you work through your own feelings, how you process things, how you understand where you're coming from and where you're acting from. When we are in our own world, and you're human, right? We thought the frickin' sun revolved around us. Okay, so like this is not a blame thing. Like this is like just human nature. We think that the sun revolved around us, not the earth revolving around the sun. That this is like, we think we're the center of the universe. So it's not uncommon, but really, as you heal, instead of contraction, which is what fear does, when we're scared, when we are in contraction, we think really small. And in order to stay connected, you want to be operating from a place of expansion. And when we can bring forward our unconscious thoughts, our unconscious beliefs, our unconscious feelings, and bring them forward, which is again what the whole thing that I break down in the confidence code. But when we open ourselves to that, when we deepen our understanding, that's how we create connection. And I just say that because personally, I have felt that. I've seen that in my own experience, where the more I have deepened into my understanding of what I didn't realize when I brought the unconscious conscious, that's where my relationship really deepened. So I'm just saying that in order to stay connected, there is a deepening and a connection with our own history, how the interplay of our past connects to our future and our present. How are you connected with yourself? Are you in good relationship with your emotions? Right? Are you expressing them in a healthy way? Are you emotionally fluent? Can you talk about your emotions to your partner? So there's a lot of interplay in that connection. And again, like understanding how to bring what we don't know forward. And that does take work, and that does take a process. So that's, again, what I do in the confidence code. Happy to talk more about that. But that's what I wanted to share today. And let's go to the mailbox from the Healing Girl Gang, my community. Love you, girls. And again, my Healing Girl Gang is the opportunity where we have monthly trainings on a theme. There's implementation days. One of the things that I'm very, very clear on is that information is nothing without application. There's implementation days. There's an action taker toolkit, depending on what level you're in. But let me go to the mailbox. And this question is from Anna or Anna, or I'm always just conscious that people pronounce their names differently. So Anna's question is, how do you stop the overthinking after a fight? A lot of times my boyfriend and I in a long distance relationship will have little arguments or fights. When we are in person, I don't worry about it so much, but when we're apart, this is unironic. I didn't even know this question was going to come up. So when we're apart, I lose my mind thinking about whether or not I just messed up stuff, or he is going to realize he doesn't want to be with me. It's exhausting. I'm so glad I found your podcast. You're truly changing lives. Aw, like, love you so much, sweetie. Okay. So, unironically, this is a perfect episode. I'm just, doesn't surprise me. Sometimes I don't even look at the questions. I just literally black out coach on these. So the first thing I want to say too is, how do you stop overthinking after a fight is very complex. So, I'm going to talk about one thing that I want to hone in on. And also, I'm just thinking about this too. I think this episode will be coming out right before, kind of around Thanksgiving. So if you are wanting to work deeper and wanting to have just more of connection and contact with me and go through my process, Black Friday's coming up. So just be prepared. Got some sweet Black Friday specials coming. Can't wait to show it to you. If you're on the mailing list, you'll definitely see that, and on my stories on Instagram. So how do you stop overthinking after a fight? All right. The thing that I'm feeling is the most important to say is, A lot of times, this is what happens right after a fight. You immediately might go into, I gotta fix it. I call this the flail, where literally it's like a drowning person. It doesn't matter if it's a branch, if it's a life vest, if it's the lifeguard, you will do anything to flail and to fix it. So the first thing that I want to say, and then what the flail can look like, going just to a tool that you've used before, like overthinking. So in that flail, the overthinking is one of the things you tend to go to because it's what you know. And what's really compelling me to kind of direct you towards right now is understanding that disagreements are okay. Like, what's interesting to me here is that it's kind of automatically making about, I just messed something up. He's there, he's gonna not want to be with me. And so right there, that's an indication that you might be taking it personal, that you're blaming yourself. And the reality is that fights happen, disagreements happen, conflict in relationship is necessary, and it's gonna happen. Okay, like no matter how perfect you think you are. And I'm just even noticing, like, I mess stuff up, or he's gonna realize he doesn't want to be with me. I mean, like, that to me seems very familiar because I, in the past, like a reformed perfectionist. But this often is like what happens with perfectionistic thinking, or all or nothing thinking, or absolute thinking, that I did something wrong or I messed up, and then boom, it's gonna fall apart. And so the first thing is, number one, learning how to understanding that disagreements are there. You need those in a relationship. Like, you need to have conflict, because that's actually, believe it or not, what makes you and the relationship stronger. We're not supposed to always see eye to eye. And so understanding on a deep level that conflict is going to happen, number one, and number two, it's not the end of the world. That will help you to automatically, in the moment of the fight, like, okay, this is like necessary. Now, if I do have conflict with Craig, and like, it's so funny, we jinxed ourselves the other day. Was like, when was the last time we had a fight? Like, and believe me, y'all, I could set the clock. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm stirring it up. I'm finding reasons. Okay, this was like, for years we did this, okay? And then the other week, a couple of weeks, we're like, what did we fight about? And then we jinxed ourselves. Anyway, and I'm happy to share that, because, again, conflict is like normal and necessary. It doesn't mean that things are going to be fine and dandy. In fact, I would argue the opposite, that if you don't have conflict, there's something majorly wrong. Majorly wrong. You're supposed to have conflict. You're not always going to see eye to eye. How you handle conflict is different. So the other thing is, how do you stop the overthinking? So the area that I want to point you toward is also that this is like usually a fight or flight response, right? In that moment that you're feeling the fear, it is a fight or flight. So literally, how do you calm your body down? How are you moving the emotion? Emotions are energy in motion. How are you actually processing that, so that you're not just reacting? Okay, that's what animals do. They just react, right? They just bite, or they bark, or they do something. So luckily for us as humans, we have evolved into having consciousness to be aware that, oh my gosh, okay, I'm having this fight or flight response, and then you get to address that accordingly. Again, this is like something that I break down in the confidence code, and you're in the Healing Girl Gang, so we're taking the cruise ship approach to how to stop the overthinking. In fact, again, Black Friday, really something special around overthinking coming up. So, and Anna, you're going to be in the Healing Girl Gang. I'm happy to dive into that more on a coaching call if you are in that. And yeah, so lots of kind of pieces. And this is all, again, you're giving me a very broad example and an insight to you. So that's why I would recommend, like, hop on a coaching call in the Healing Girl Gang, and let's get that straightened out. So I'm sending you all lots of love. Staying connected in relationship, whether it's distance, whether they're being distant, is all about how deeply you connect with yourself. All right. How are you connecting the dots from your past? How are you connecting to your own emotions? And how are you connecting with them? All right. I'm sending you lots of love. Mwah.